We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones. Hi there, my name is Tercy Engelhardt, and I'd like to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. So first of all, I want to thank those of you who have been with me for, I just was looking at that, I think it's 276 or so episodes. That's a lot. It's a lot of weeks. And some of you are just listening in for the first time. Some of you who I don't even know are listening. Welcome. I'm grateful to have you, grateful to have you share a bit of your journey with me, grateful that I have the opportunity to share a bit of my journey with you. I do believe that we're all on a journey and that we're becoming more of who we were created to be, learning how to let more love in, let more love out, and be the best version of ourselves. So some people don't call that recovery. I do, because I lived 20 years of my life struggling with anorexia and bulimia, living a lifestyle of an addict, figuring out how to avoid food or how to get food or how to get rid of food. And it was pretty all encompassing, surviving some teenage sexual abuse, and then just learning how to navigate life in my 40s as a person healing. And here I am 39 years later, and I get together every week and share you tidbits of wisdom from my journey. And some of them are actually very, very current. It's not always like, oh, yeah, I learned that way back when. No, I'm still learning. I'm still growing. So, a couple of things. If you're interested in an individual opportunity to be together, you can go to tercyengelhardt.com under the topic Work Together. I make myself available on Tuesday mornings. Doesn't mean I couldn't be available another time, but you'd have to reach out to let me know if you just can't make that work and you are interested. And I want to thank all of you who have showed up in that space. It's been an honor to get to know you a little bit more deeply, and it allows me to see how extraordinary people are. Because face it, sometimes the world is full of mostly negative or bad news or what's not going well. And it's really wonderful to see the beauty and those divine qualities that we all have shine forth in the people that I sit with. Okay, so a couple of things. This particular topic's called the longevity of friendship. But before I get into that, I just want to briefly mention and hold space for the flash flood in Texas. Our daughter happened to live in Kerr County. She lives in Bandera, just outside of Kerrville. And she's currently spending a lot of time feeding rescue teams. And because she's close to that particular place, we hear both stories that are heartbreaking, and we also hear the miraculous. And I just want us all to send our love and send our prayers to the community and all of those people whose lives have been impacted, to all of those children, many of whom lost their lives. And look and see, is there some way we could participate, some way we could be a part of the healing or the recovery for that community? So just encouraging you to consider that possibility. And I'll talk more about that on another episode. However, what I want to talk about today is friendship. So I'm in this process I shared with you about studying and learning more about Catholicism and the opportunity or possibility of conversion. And part of that process is cleaning up things from my past. And so I reached out to a friend of mine from high school, which, mind you, high school for me is like 58 years ago, 67, I met her. And so she knew me in those early years of I was healthy and then I wasn't. And so she walked through the very initial phase of that. And like she shared when we spoke recently, none of us knew what was going on or what it was, or eating disorders and anorexia wasn't something that we were even aware of. And if you've heard my story, you know that it was years before I actually knew what I was dealing with. Anyway, This isn't about that. This is about friendship. So I reached out to her as a reference, and turned out it was a lot more involved process than either of us thought it might be. And so she reached out and said, "We need to talk." And I called her. And what I want to share with you is when I hung up from that conversation, I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt valued. Um, and I could reflect back on I felt the same way when I first met her. So I met her when I had transferred to a new school as a swimmer, as a competitive swimmer. And I had left the high school and the kids that I had been with since like fourth grade, fifth grade, because coming from a military family, I had been to a lot of schools and moved often. But that was the longest I had ever been in with one group of friends. And then I left and moved into a new school my end of my sophomore, beginning of my junior year of high school. And that's when I met her. And she was dear then, and she's dear now. And what I want to share with you is when I hung up from that phone, I got present to you just never know. You just never know. Those friendships that you develop, the value, the meaning, the richness, the depth that they may go. Now, this wasn't a friendship that required a lot of maintenance. She and I had only spoken a couple of times. We reconnected right before our 50th class reunion. I had gone and seen her once when she was working as a professional. We touched base a couple of times. Both of us had worked for a few years for the airlines as in-flight hostesses. So we'd connected a couple of times over those 58 years, but not for any real length of time. And yet, when I thought about someone who I could reach out to, she was right there. She was at the top of my list. And when I finished speaking with her, I still have this experience of how important friendship is. And I'm not one that, like I said, lived with a group for a long time, grew up with people, and went through lots of experiences with people because my parents did travel a lot, and then I moved around a lot. But even those friendships that you don't have to work at maintaining, maybe especially those, there's something in that. There's some seed of compassion and unconditional love and kindness and generosity that when we can tap into it, it moves us. I was moved. I was moved by her kindness, her warm heart, her authenticity, her generosity, her compassion. And I don't know that I'll ever forget it. So I just wanted to take a moment to encourage all of you to, if you have people in your life, and I have a couple that have been friends for a long time, but perhaps you haven't been in touch for a good while, reach out. You don't have to have a need. In this case, I was actually asking her to do something for me, but you don't have to. You could just reach out and reconnect and acknowledge and appreciate that person, because all of us on this journey can use that. And sometimes having a friend is also being a friend. And just as I was hooking up my microphone and getting ready for this, I was thinking about her generosity. And at the same time, I realized had she reached out to me, I would be there. If she reached out to me, I would be there. And yet, it was so long ago. And like we shared, we were so young and so innocent in so many ways, but some seed got planted. And ultimately, what I believe is true about her and myself and a couple of other of those dear friendships in my life is what we want is we want the best for the other. And so this week, I encourage you, who would you be? What would you do? Where would you go? What would you say if who you were being in your friendships was, I want the best for another? And that's what I'd love to see us take on. So that takes me to one of the miracle stories, both sad and also amazing. We called our son and said, how did delivering food go? And he said, life changing. And he shared with us a story of a family, a mom and dad, a sister, two sisters, who were driving their car and got too deep in water. The car stalled out. The 17-year-old daughter opened the door and ushered out, got her parents and her sibling out of the car. And then in a rush of floodwaters, she got washed away. And as she got washed away, they could hear her singing. She was 17, on her way to be a camp counselor, and had a strong faith. And she was singing worship songs and praise songs as she was washed away. And her body was found, I believe it was the next day, on a small beach a few miles from there. One hand was kind of up in the air, and she was in like a seating position on this beach. And I share that story because, again, that is a representation of wanting the best for another, even at the personal cost of yourself. And so this week, see if you can't show up in all of your relationships, but especially in those relationships that are dearest to you, as someone who, no matter what is said or isn't said, what is done or isn't done, that who you are being is, I want the best for you. Okay? So that's our homework. I'll be here, same place, same time next week. And I look forward to seeing you then. Have a beautiful, beautiful week.